So, hi, everybody. Welcome. Feel free to let us know where you are in the world. We're excited to have this conversation. It's all fun and games till somebody echoes the group chat. You not lying. Hi, Nana, Alice. Hi, everyone. I'm going to do something I rarely do. My name is Michelle Jackson, and I am the founder of Creators Getting Paid. And I interview content creators and share how they make money online. I also share what happens in the back end of my business, things that are going on. I have the philosophy with my newsletter. It is now open. There is no paywall. And for those folks who are paid subscribers, that is so all may learn, so all may earn. That is my new tagline. I also have a website and podcast about Colorado called Square State, Colorado. So if you are ever intrigued, interested, or like what is going on over there, that's where I share those conversations. Next.
My name's
You want to go,
Corey
Angela?
Gums. I'm the black host of the excuse me. My name's Corey Gums. I'm the founder of Black Pod News, blkpodnews.com, right here on Substack. It's a newsletter dedicated to Black professionals and podcasters in the industry. I'm also founder of the Black Podcasters Association.
Okay. Angela.
Hey, I'm looking through all the names. How are you guys doing? My name is Angela Hollowell. I write two newsletters. Both of them can be found here on Substack. I write Please Hustle Responsibly, which is a newsletter community for creators who want to learn, connect, and grow. I also write Melanin MVP, which is a newsletter for women's sports fans and everyday athletes. So if either of yours are your jam, check those out. Both free to subscribe. I do not have paid subscriptions turned on, so free forever. You make me some ads, but only click on them if they're relevant to you, and I will do my best to only have ads in my newsletters that are relevant. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. 19 at 8:09. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Let's do it.
Okay, so we decided to, we have an editorial calendar. We discuss different topics that we're going to cover. So we're not like popping on and randomly talking about stuff. And today we're going to talk about what it's like, hey, Dee, what it's like to build a list. We are not going to have a one of those conversations about like these are the like we're going to share like what has worked for us, but this is not like bro culture list building conversation. I want for people to leave it understanding why having a list is so important, but what it's really like to build a list and how it feels. And part of why I personally am very invested in having this conversation is I personally feel having a list is like a foundational element to having a healthy business and brand, whether it is an online business, brand, or a bricks and mortar business. All of these businesses are building lists in some sort of way. And I have found, that with Black and Brown creators, consistently we are underutilizing this resource and um like just not really focusing on this foundational piece to our businesses. So um that is my perspective. You guys, what do you think about just like before we really get into the heart of the conversation, like list building and why you think today we're going to talk about it? Your perspectives.
I think that Substack is one of the first, really the first platform to really connect newsletters to marketing in such a direct way with their notes feed. And I think that the um, growth, not just by having a social feed, but by having a direct line to other writers that you can connect with and form partnerships for recommendations, cross posting, other things like that, has been monumental for writers on this platform. And then you add all of that up with it being free. It feels like the cheat code to creating a sustainable business in and of itself. Um, After not being on Substack for almost a year next month, I have some opinions on the platform, obviously, and reasons why I won't go back. But ultimately, I can 100% agree with Michelle in that having a newsletter truly feels like it has de-risked my creative business and makes me feel more confident pivoting away from freelance work or majority freelance work being that or having freelance work be majority of my income to moving towards earning majority of my income as an online creator. So for that, I'm definitely a big proponent of newsletters. What about you, Corey?
Well, I'm the poster child of being ignorant to newsletters for years until I started this one. So I,
Wait, wait. Wait, wait. I want to make a point before we talk further. You guys keep referencing newsletters.
I'm,
Uh,
oh,
wait. There's going to be a point where we need to talk about newsletters versus email lists, and I'm kind of thinking email lists. So we're just going to like asterisk that, but keep going.
well, I'll start from my experience with the newsletter because I think having the newsletter has taught me it's given me the experience and now the understanding of why having a list of some sort to be able to contact someone or to reach out to your fan base directly is important. And Rob Dunwell for years was trying to get me to start and do it, and look at us now, right now. When I finally decided to listen to him and figure out how I wanted to do it, now I'm thinking of doing my own personal list, because I want to. You guys know I'm trying to do like courses and get more into consulting and all that stuff. So I think I need to build something that's separate from what I've been doing with the podcast space and doing more of a brand of my own self branding and having my own list dedicated just to that. I thought I could try to figure out how to integrate that into what I'm doing already, but it just doesn't make sense for me to do it that way.
Mhm.
But I will say this from talking with various members and people just in general and business owners, I will agree with you, Michelle, about how our community is not utilizing either one, list or even newsletters, to help build their audiences and connect with their audiences. So I think and that's something I definitely do talk to, especially some of the business owners I know right here in my area that I come in contact with, and I ask them, do they have a list? Usually, like deer in headlights. So I started having conversations with them about like why they need to do that.
What about you, Angela? What are your thoughts?
On what the difference between a newsletter and an email list?
Well, actually, no. You know what? Why don't we all kind of talk about that? Because I feel like you already kind of commented on the other piece before. So yes, what do you feel is a difference between an email list and a newsletter? Is there a difference?
For me, it's kind of splitting hairs, but I will say, like, if I am nitpicking on the difference, um, I would say there's a big difference between what I write and publish and an email you would receive from an e-commerce brand. You can't see us. Shamiko, you have issues every week. What's going on, babes?
Ah,
I don't know why you can't see it.
log out and
Can
log back
anybody else
in.
not see us?
I feel like no one
Yeah.
else said anything.
I don't know, but just in case
I don't.
nobody's saying anything, like, if they're coming in and they're like, "Oh, I can't see, something's wrong, let me go back out." Hopefully, somebody will tell us if they can't see us. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so I think there's a big difference between what I write and publish on a weekly basis and an email that I would get. I can see you all, but I'm on my iPad. The screen has
Oh.
been black this whole time. Jesus Christ.
That's hilarious. I don't know what to say
I'm
to
so
that.
sorry. I'm so sorry,
Okay.
Shamika.
Oh Lord.
Thank you for being a trooper and just listening to our voices because that's rough. Please, but definitely try logging back out and logging back in.
Yeah.
Um, I think that for a long time, because I associated an email list with the emails that I got from an e-commerce, but you can see the chat. Listen, you apparently
Mm.
either get one or the other. You can either see us or you can see the chat. And unfortunately, this week you can't see us. At least you can see the chat, so that's something. Um, to Corey's point, I didn't really like the idea of sending a newsletter because I thought that having an email list meant I was supposed to be selling you something. I was supposed to have all the pixels attached to it so that I could see when you went to my website and see when you went to purchase something. And whatever else e-commerce people track on you, which I'm sure it's a lot, let's be real. Um, but there's fundamentally a different value proposition between a newsletter and having an email list with the sole intention of selling something to them without necessarily providing anything other than their transaction. I think for me, my newsletters err on the educational and editorial side of things. And so for that reason, once I fundamentally changed how I wanted to use a newsletter, not just for transactions, yes, transactions are beneficial and needed for every business to be profitable, but also for connection and community, then it became a fundamentally different perspective on how I viewed it. I viewed it as this one-to-many conversation that still feels personalized and feels one-to-one because it is individually reaching someone's inbox versus just something they scroll on their feed. So I hope I'm answering your question. I'm not sure.
I think that's a great answer. What about you, Corey? What are your thoughts about like how you're experiencing newsletters versus emails? Do you feel like it's the same or different? I have opinions, but I'll wait till the end.
I think for a long time I was biased because I've been on here since the early days of the internet. So I remember when the newsletter wasn't that your email list was a newsletter, right? So, and
Yeah.
I think for years I just kind of blocked it out. Like you sign up for something and it's just then you regret it because now you're just getting inundated left and right with all these sales pitches and stuff. So I think for me, I kind of got, and I think that was part of my struggle to even start one when I was starting because of the newsletter, because I was like, oh, it's the same thing, and I don't want to be like what I keep seeing everybody doing, and that because it annoyed me to the point
Mm.
I started blocking people, not just subscribing, but unsubscribing, but blocking them. Um, and it's I'm still learning, so it's still a struggle because I like to use the G word. I'm not gonna say it today. Hopefully, knock on wood. But
Okay.
it's become a tool of it's become a tool of those particular type of people, and so I've just had like this mental block from it. But like I said earlier, like I think I'm understanding the difference because when I look at my newsletter and I'll kind of like have an idea that I want to like pitch something to our to the audience that I have now, and I'm just like, but is that in alignment with what the purpose of this particular newsletter is? So that's why I was like, okay, maybe I need to start focusing on building my own brand so that I can have the audience that's there and has the expectation of those things coming to them because people are signing up for this newsletter with an expectation of one thing, and I don't want to ruin that trust that I've created with them with that.
I think that's a really, really good point. So for me, I think it's a gray area, right? No matter what, you need a list. How you communicate with that list depends. So like a newsletter to me is a branded communication. It could be that now in 2025, almost 2026, it could be an audio newsletter that's branded. It could be video. It could be a mix of both, which is partly why platforms such as Substack, Ghost, Beehive, I think are so attractive. They allow people to kind of explore different ways to communicate to their audiences. When I email my list, I feel like when I think about like emails, sometimes just the function is different. So I send a branded communication, but an email might be where I'm pitching things like, or maybe there's a sequence that I've designed to help me communicate with my list. So I feel like it's like a combined thing. Like I have a newsletter, but I email them in a different way with different intentions. Um, and so in my case, I have 3 days of content that I send out. The third day typically would be what I would consider more an email communication. Maybe I'm going to share a product, um, an affiliate item, something like that, in that specific um, email. I will say, like for me, I started building a list for the most random reason, which is I have a romance pen name. And so even though I was in the personal finance space at the time, I started like dabbling in romance writing. I didn't have I didn't have an email list for my personal finance brand. But for some reason, I caught on that all the romance girlies were building lists. So really focused on building that list, and I'm never going to share it with you guys. And so I grew the list, and those ladies and those humans I would hit send, and I would get emails back in 30 seconds. Like, it was really a wonderful way to understand how you could be communicating with people in a really natural way, really warm, even though they had no idea who I was, because I have a pen name. So I would share that I was from Denver and how the weather was and blah blah blah, and here's a book I'm working on, here's an idea, everything but who I was really, unless you were like someone that I told, like, that I was working on the project. But other than that, they never saw my face, nothing like that. And those were some of the best email experiences because they were really invested in the writing world of that pen name. I have actually recently deleted the entire list because it went cold during COVID. Like, I just stopped really working on that project. But actually, this is a huge opportunity because I'm going to start growing that list again and selling my backlist of books to people who probably have no idea that that romance pen name exists. So I'm very excited to see, how that works with that project. That was the money I lived off of during COVID, by the way. So I was very much like, once I experienced how you could build community, but you could also make sales and it wasn't like weird, that made more sense to me. Why did I? Because no, I tried to, Shamiko, it just didn't work. So you can definitely re-engage with a list and an audience, but it was too many years cold, and I just wasn't able to stay as consistent right at the time as I needed to, because this year's been a hard year. So I kept like last year I tried, this year I tried, but if you re-engage a list, you need to be like really like consistent to have it happen, and that wasn't this year. If I tried to do it now, I think I would have had a lot more success, but that's fine. Like, I'm fine with starting fresh. So, and that was almost 3,000 people, by the way. So that was, a list. But it is what it is. That list also grew really fast compared to other lists that I've built. So, um, I would love to know, what for those of you who are watching, do you have a list? And if you do or don't, what has it been like to start building it? How have you felt about it? If you don't have a list, why don't you? Like, whatever you want to share, we'll share your comments as we talk about this. Um, I think it's interesting talking about list building on the Substack platform because, or platforms like this, because they are set up in ways to really incentivize people to be on the platform. They have things like the recommendation feature, um, stuff like that. But there's some downsides that we'll definitely, I think, touch on. Um, I have been uh, working on building my list and community for years now, specifically on and off Substack, both. So those have been very important approaches to me building my list. What I'm getting distracted by the comments though. Wait. I would nurture all the lists, uh, Rakim. So wait a minute. Okay. I'm reading through the comments, guys, because I just
Yeah.
got distracted by them.
So Mondo asks, how do you build a list?
Do you want to talk about that, just so that, like, it's hard for me to, like, since we have something. Let's talk about that. So, Angela, do you want to share how you're growing your list, and then I'll then Corey, and then myself.
Sure. Sorry, trying to like respond back here. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, I have two separate audiences. Please Hustle Responsibly is aimed at creators, marketers, and entrepreneurs. Um, for me, when I started the list, I was already writing pretty consistently on LinkedIn. and LinkedIn is a great place for business related newsletters. So I was promoting on LinkedIn. Haven't been as much lately, but promoting on LinkedIn was really helpful when I first started making and building relationships with other writers. So doing cross promotions, doing guest posts, having other people guest posts, um, and setting up actual recommendation connections so that when people sign up to my newsletter, they either see other people that I'm recommending and vice versa. So recommendations are powerful. You'll hear a lot of people try to tell you how to game the system. Please don't game the system. Actually, like really don't just put someone on your recommendation list. Really try to go out of your way to actually put them in front of your audience. I've done that a lot. I've shared Michelle and Corey multiple times in my newsletter, other people that I recommend multiple times in my newsletter, even people here on Substack, and I'm no longer on Substack because that's what I feel like a recommendation relationship should look like. It shouldn't be specific to any one platform. It really should be an effort for you to get them in front of your audience if they're a like-minded podcast. Um, Something I haven't done as much, but I would like to do more of is really beefing up my referral program. I think that whenever I put in calls to action for people to share, or whenever I write something really good, I know because people will share it. And I want to continue to incentivize people sharing my work. Though I appreciate the organic shares, I'm not gonna hold you. I appreciate y'all. But I do feel like word of mouth from my readers is by far one of the best ways to get new folks onto my newsletter audience. Because people want to hear from other people. People get a lot of newsletters emailed to them. They get bombarded with newsletters. They want to know what is worth their time. And I'm always going to feel like it's worth their time. I'm biased, obviously. I'm the writer. But I think when other people share it without me having to say anything, well, obviously I do ask. I ask all the time. Ask your audience to share your newsletter. Like that is a good thing to do. And when you have written something that really resonates with them, you will know. Um, I would say in terms of being a little creative with social media, especially on threads, I think sharing social proof my new website for Please Hustle Responsibly has a testimonial section, and it's just comments and DMs and responses to my newsletter. So share what people think about it. Get social proof. I think that really helps. Um, and I do think that in this day and age, like sharing evergreen posts, sharing timely posts, like never feeling like, okay, I published this today, now it's old, I have to go on to the next one. Like continue sharing old posts that did really well or that feel really timely to get people going down that I say binge hole, but like going down the road to binging your body of work. That is what you want. Um, so those are kind of quick and dirty. There are some other, I'm sure, strategic tactics that we could get into, but I think for now, those are good. I don't want to take up too much time. Corey, what about you?
I think for me, and like I said, I'm investigating for myself. The thing I think the most important thing is and you said like with yours to differentiate the two audiences. I think that's the most important part is knowing your audience. And I know some platforms allow you to segment your list and all that stuff, but I think if you're building a list, you need to know like exactly who's this for and who you're going to be speaking to, so that the content that you produce or whatever it is, the pitches that you give or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with that list, brings the best value, which will convert for you and turn into conversions and people staying on that list or remaining on that list. I think sometimes people just throw stuff out there, just like they looking at like social media, they look at the numbers, right? Um, I was guilty of that with my newsletter. It was like, oh, we got X amount of things, and it's like, the thing that always bothered me was like, what is the value I'm offering to our subscribers? And we have platforms like Substack, Beehive that have these algorithms that help to increase um your subscriptions. Um, Sometimes the person that subscribes because of the platform might not be the audience that you're really seeking. And people will see like like I got discouraged when I used to see people I get the email. I had to turn off the notifications because I would get so many emails about people unsubscribing. But then I just stopped caring. I was like, well, I need to focus on the people who are here. These are the people who that they sign up. This is where they're getting value. So I think like no matter what list you're trying to build, that you really need to focus on the audience and what value you want to give them and what is the purpose. I like to reverse engineer things. So I like to like, what is the outcome I want from this? And then I'll work my way backwards from there.
Um, I want to talk more like tactics. And so I think one of the things that people find confusing maybe about growing a list is they don't quite understand how to integrate like content design with the idea of list growth, right? So as a community builder, as a business, owner, what have you, you are trying to grow your community. You could be growing your leads, or it's a mix of both, right? And with us positioned on the internet, there's a lot of different ways we're told that we should be doing this or could be doing this. So that's why you get a lot of like conversation about like you should be on social media and blah blah blah. This is how you should be doing stuff. And so for me, I think a lot about again who I serve. Content design is very important to me. I have a website that is off this platform. I have had the website before I ever thought about Substack. So I have specific things on there that if someone were to search creators getting paid, it's likely that they're going to find uh, posts that are specifically on my website. I have a podcast and I think very deeply about how I design the content for the podcast with the idea of SEO and nowadays AI search, like AI related search. I think about things. So right now I'm doing um, an 8 week project where basically I'm doing a sales sprint. So every Sunday I show up live here on Substack. But the only request I have is that or the only thing that I do, that's a better way to put it. The only thing I do is I'm going live in front of my audience. There are several reasons why. One, it's to serve my audience, but two, it's also to combat some of the cooling effect that can happen with with the recommendation feature that I feel like we do need to talk about. But I'm not solely positioned on Substack, quite frankly. I think that for me personally is not ideal. So I'm trying to drive people to opt-ins that are hosted elsewhere, and making sure that I'm doing things that will keep my list healthy. For me, I'm really looking at engagement. Like, are people, when I email, do people respond? Do they care about what I'm sending out? Are they giving me feedback in some sort of way? And I think that that's really key to knowing, are you connecting with the right people? And if so, are you connecting with and capturing the right people? And if so, are you in communication with them? I think, put plainly, every single piece of content or every single thing you do, quite frankly, should be leading people into your world, eventually to your list. That is like as plain as I can make it. Like, especially these days where it's very easy to get platforms to be like, you know what, we don't like what you said. We don't like your what you cover. We don't like who you are supporting as a community. So I feel like the deeper conversation around list building isn't really even the money piece, like what you could potentially earn. It's the, how can you make sure that your work is preserved and going in front of people that you're trying to serve, because these platforms will cancel you and you will be like, what just happened? Like, really, what will happen if today you can't log into your favorite platform, but that's where you've been building the whole time? So for me, I'm like, I have the podcast. I'm making sure I'm talking about my products. My ads go to my products and what I'm doing. I actually reference Shh, we're talking all the time because I love this project. I want people to know that we are collaborating. I backlink to the work that my colleagues Corey and Angela do, as well as other folks. Like, I'm really very intentional around the flywheel of my work and the world that I'm building with my brand. The problem, I think, is that it doesn't happen fast, especially if you're doing it organically. If you're paying for it, that's a whole different conversation, but you might not be as connected to your audience that's on your list, because typically if you're paying for it, they're cold. So we, I think, have really warm lists and probably very responsive lists, because we're not, I don't think we're all, I think if we're paying for acquisition, it's not a lot, but it means that our lists are building slower. But I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily. What do you guys think?
I want to chime in on the relative quickness or slowness of list building.
Mm.
I think there was a time, and I'm rough on the years, but there was a time where prolific newsletter writers were garnering a lot of press. And I'm talking
Mhm.
like big name press. I'm talking like your Rolling Stones, your CNNs, like Kay He, who just actually stopped writing his newsletter, Rad Reads. He got from like, I think he got from like 10,000 to 50,000 subscribers off of one post in CNN where they
Whoa.
called him the Millennial Oprah, and they mentioned his newsletter, and it popped off. It was on the front page of the CNN app and homepage for like 13 days at the beginning of the year. So like in January, nothing's going on, like relatively quiet. And he was on the front page of CNN. So he gained like 40,000 subs just from that one thing. And there's a lot of other people with similar stories, like your Jay Klauses, your Justin Welches, like people who have really interesting stories of leaving corporate or doing something really incredible under someone else's brand and then spinning off to do their own thing. And they earned media, they leveraged that media to new subscribers because their newsletter was their flagship creative project. I don't know if that exists today. I think it does a little bit. I think it's going to look a couple different ways. I think it looks like um, newsletter writers, prolific writers getting on big podcasts. I feel like that's an opportunity, organic opportunity to grow. Right now, Caleb Ralston, who used to work for Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee, has spun out to do his own thing, and he's getting a lot of press. So he's kind of going that route. Um, Adrian Purr, he's an Asian American guy who's been like all over Instagram doing short social videos, who's expanded into YouTube, so into long form. And since his entry into YouTube, he's been getting a lot of earned media on video podcasts that are YouTube forward. So that's another way to grow that. I don't think he has an email list, but long form content is long form content. Hopefully YouTube does not, log him out of his channel. But same thing applies. So I think earned media, one, looks different. Getting in front of a big audience that leads back to your flagship creative project and domain is possible. Is it something you should bank on? Probably not, I would say. Um, in terms of paid media, I think that can look a couple different ways. And paying for social ads is probably not the best way, but that's probably the way people think about when they think about paid media to grow your newsletter. I would say ads and other newsletters are probably going to be really good bets in terms of paid media. And host read ads on podcast feeds are gonna, if you want to pay for something. The third one, which is a crazy one, is investing in writing a book. Uh, I think that's like the book author's way, right? So because if you want to be known for something and you want to have the opportunity to continue writing about something that you care about, then you write about something that you care about on a really big stage. And writing a book is one way to do that. So those are my quick and dirty thoughts on if you're looking to make a big jump, those are some ways to do it. Again, is it likely that you will do that and be able to do that as a new newsletter writer without um, a bank of content that me and Michelle have both alluded to that people could binge and really get to know and really identify with you and your work? Unlikely. He had been writing for years before he got that CNN
Mhm.
feature. Justin Welsh had been writing for years. Jay Klaus had been grinding for years. Like, it's not just going to come just because you started a newsletter and you decided you want to be on CNN or Rolling Stone or HuffPost being called the next Oprah. I don't know. I don't know who, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So Those are my thoughts. Not to be discouraging,
Right.
there are ways to grow, but I think the growth shouldn't be dependent on how fast you go. It should be dependent on the quality of your audience, which we've both talked about, or all
What
three of
about
us
you,
have
Corey?
mentioned.
So I think I take from my tech background the caution of scaling too fast, um, which it's always a working issue when when you're deciding to build an app or a website or something, right? Like we always talk about what if you wake up in the morning and you got 1 million downloads, you launched this thing and you got a million downloads and you weren't prepared for that.
Uh,
Typically your app is going to crash and fail. And I think if you come with the idea you want to scale fast, there is a level of expectation from just your audience and just everyone in general and what they're getting and what they're going to expect from that point on. So growing fast sometimes can be a very, a great thing if you have the right plan in place, but it could also be a very dangerous thing for your brand, um, as well. What they say, the fast, the faster you go up, the harder you come down, right? And I,
uh,
I want to go back to what you're saying about how all these different people, right? Like people always get enamored of the instant success of people, but forget the 10-year journey they were on and all the mistakes they made to get to that point. Which is why I love reading autobiographies and biographies of people because it's always a check. It's always a reality check for me. Like, okay, yeah, this person, seems to came out of nowhere, has this monicum of success, but you need to watch this. You need to learn the journey and learn about their story before, and then you realize, oh, it took somebody. It took Ray Kroc like almost 40 years to get to where he got to, right? When McDonald's. So like, you got to be real. Careful with the idea of jumping in with wanting to scale fast. Now, for me, anytime I feel frustrated or I don't feel like something is not growing, I like to go back and reread Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. I don't know if you know about that article, written back in like 2008. That's always another place where I go back and check myself on like my expectations. I can say from building Black Pod News, I think one of the best things was and if I had built fast, I probably would have never got the interaction with people. It was meeting people who were like, I subscribe to your newsletter and telling me
yeah.
what the benefits are or how it helped them. Even though it's a Black Center podcast, I've had, white people say to me, this helps me with my clients. So it's like I wouldn't, if I scaled too fast, I might have missed that part, or I might have been too focused on trying to do this plan that I had that I'm not paying attention to how people are responding to the content we're putting out or the effects of it. So I like to go with the 1,000 True Fans idea of like you could still make a lot of money off of 1,000 people. It's just a matter of how you do it. If your goal is to make a lot of money off of people, right? Um, we also seen no matter how many subscribers somebody has, the conversion rate is, especially like on social media where you got 1.2 million followers, but you might only be converted. And I'll take those numbers. I'll take 1% of that. But but for a lot of people that have those big followings, they have a very high expectation on conversion. And I'm just like, and it kind of, so I just think I always like organic. I always like organic, at least in the beginning, to build a very strong foundation and a strong fan base or very dedicated audience. And then you figure out how to scale it on a bigger scale. So that's always kind of been like
I
my idea of how I'll do things.
I want to ask you guys, how has it felt to build your lists? I'll share what it's been like for me. So I talked about the romance list, but that's very different than building the business list, the creators getting paid list. So I unfortunately am a multi-passionate content creator, which means I squirrel. I like get excited about different things. I feel like that's very relatable with a lot of people. And initially, I started creating content in the personal finance space. So I've won awards for the content for that brand. I was very invested, but I never started a list. I don't, in retrospect, I'm baffled by this because I was in a mastermind with a couple people who became millionaires. And the one thing they always did was build their list. That was the only, they just were just locked in. And one of my friends, both of those friends grew, no, actually, there was three of them, grew massive, 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 very helpful personal finance brands because personal finance can be tricky, right? but these were really great brands. They're going to make a whole bunch of money going into this upcoming year. I mean, let's be clear, like personal finance is about to pop off again, as well as romance, actually, because that's what happens with all the headwinds that are coming, like clearly. But literally, my one friend, the one thing she did was she worked on her list. She had 20 hours a week. She talks about this a lot, and she used to talk about this a lot in her podcast interviews. She's like, I have 20 hours a week. The kids aren't with me in those 20 hours, and this is all I had to do. So she focused on the thing that gave her the biggest return, which was her list, which was serving her audience and getting them in her world so that when she had the kids, they were still being like helped. And so, despite seeing several people for years in a mastermind that I collaborated with and did all this stuff, I never started a list. I don't regret it because I think that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. And then I did the romance list and I was like, oh, wait, this is amazing because it was COVID when I really understood the power of it. Like I was building this list prior to COVID and I was starting to make money, right? I would email and they would buy books and they would read pages and I would just get paid every month. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then I swirled a little bit, but I was still working on it. And then COVID hit. And I was never so grateful to have built up that like skill set and that audience and like understood that. I wonder where I would be if I'd been able to continue focusing on that brand during COVID, but I didn't forget the skills. I just was like, I am hearing flashbangs as the people in the city of Denver protest. It's a lot. And I'm in my house by myself for 3 months. So I just didn't have the energy to do it. But I didn't, you don't lose the skills, right? And in fact, my building skills are 10 times better than when I was working on that then. So now I have creators getting paid. And I think, to be honest, it was a little easier to be like, I can monetize this because it's a business focused list. But as I worked on it, I was like, this is community. There are things I'm trying to communicate that maybe I don't want to communicate in certain places. Um, I just understood the power of it a lot more. It has been just slow and steady, like one foot in front of the other. I've never been too like focused on the unsubscribes actually. Like I very rarely look at that. Um, because it is clear to me that the biggest area to focus on is getting people on the list. Like that is a forever task. And I think as long as you understand that, the other stuff is important, but it doesn't lead what you're doing. So it's been humbling, it's been frustrating, it's been a lot of work. Uh, but I'm really starting to see like the results coming from it. Like I feel a lot more confident about my business. I feel a lot more confident about my brand. I feel a lot more confident about how I can negotiate if I were to do like brand sponsorships with big brands again, not little ones. We won't get into that. But like if a company reaches out to me that I love, like a coffee brand, not Starbucks, but like a local coffee brand, right? And they're like, Michelle, so, Michelle, we'd like to partner with you. And I'd be like, hell yeah. And then I have all these different components to my brand that I could utilize and share with them, and use as a way to navigate and negotiate a deal with them. So it's been hard. Um, it's been hard, it's been humbling, but I'm very thankful that I've done it. I also wanna say, I feel like on Substack specifically, I'm gonna just talk about that. People get really pissy when some of the growth bros are like, "This is, what I'm doing and I'm growing," and it's like, they're like, "We just want to, like, create art." And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But most people want people to see the art. Most people want to talk to the people who would be their would be patrons. Most people would need to do that. Like there's a disconnect sometimes on Substack that is so baffling to me from the artists themselves. I can't in this economy completely do stuff for free. It's just eggs are still $7 in Denver. I can't do it, right? So I think very fortunate that the business is branded in the way that it is because it doesn't upset it doesn't Lauren, it doesn't upset people if I have products or whatever. But I would like to buy paintings from a painter. I would like to buy Rakem's book. I would like it just doesn't like I feel like sometimes people on the platform are a bit disingenuous because the whole premise of the platform is that you can monetize your work, that you can take your list with you. And so when people are like, we're so mad that people are like trying to grow the list and blah blah blah. I'm like, what the fuck? What do you expect? That's the whole point of being on the platform. Michael's saying, nah, they just want to write and get mad when they they don't grow. um, and
That's
by
what
the
it
way,
really is.
no, I don't. Notes does not grow my brand. And in fact, I'm Notes is the one way that doesn't grow my brand. Nothing from Notes helps me. I just randomly post stuff. You know what grows my brand? Other stuff, other stuff. And you just have to figure out what makes sense for you and your project. You don't have to do notes, but you're not wrong, Michael. What about you guys?
You know what's funny about the notes thing, real quick, is like sometimes I check in and I'm like, wow, we have so many followers on our page, right? It's over like 11,000 people, and I'm wondering like with Substack, there's no data that shows you conversion from people who follow you into subscribers. So that
Mm,
to me, like what you're saying about the notes thing, it's like, is it worth my time? Should I focus on trying to use this to convert people to subscribe? Because I don't even know like what's I don't even know if if there is a conversion or not from that. Actually, I find that we get more better conversion off of our live streams
yeah.
than I do off of publishing a note. So I don't even know anymore. Like, but I wish Substack, maybe if if the AI algorithm picks this up, because we're saying Substack a lot, um, well might be like, yeah, this is a good idea. But I just wanted to throw that in there. But sorry, you can jump in, Angela.
I actually think there is a way. I think somewhere in the back end it does share if you convert from a note to a subscriber. I do think I'm convinced I've seen that somewhere. Um, but I
Maybe
will
I'm not on your
say that
status yet and get access to that.
uh, uh, whatever. I will say this. I will say this. I do think that people are confused about what they should focus on specific to the growth of their project. And I think part of why that happens is because we all have different projects. Sometimes we want things to happen fast. We all have clearly stated that's not going to be what happens. Like it just isn't. And just figuring out like what energetically makes sense for you and the work that you're curating, right? So again, I have a podcast. It's not hosted on this platform. I have a website. I've had those for years, and I'm doubling down on them. The one social media platform that I actually enjoy using is Threads, and I have a social media light project. Um, so some of you guys might have a really heavy social media focus. I think it really is important to pay attention to like what marketing makes sense for the work that you're working on, and this idea that like notes are the end all be all. What if it just like in my case, it doesn't convert? It does not work for me. So I just share some random shit and keep it moving. I don't even think about it twice because it just consistently isn't working. It doesn't mean it can't in the future, but why would I double down on something that's not working? I'm going to focus on other stuff. Like there are other things like this that convert really well, and these are much warmer connections because you guys see us. You share comments. Maybe we'll do like a Zoom and you'll see us in person. We'll see your faces. I've met people from my list at different events and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so we're real to each other. And so I think that's an important piece. But yeah, building a list is humbling, but it's so necessary. And I feel like there's a point where you just get immune to the inner like I think initially if you're really frightened by it, that beginning part, you have to work through it. And then I feel no energy around, like, again, unsubscribes, because my focus is serve my community, grow the list. That's it. The emotion's kind of gone. I'm numb to it all.
We're desensitized to unsubscribes now.
Yes. Yes, cuz they, you know what? Because
But
if
I
they're
will
on
say this
my,
though. Sorry, sorry.
no, no, if they're on my other, so I use another tool, I'll say this, for my list building. I pay for that. Why do you think, if it's a cold list, why do you think I deleted the almost 3,000 people? Because I'm paying for that. They need to go. Even though I have like a discount, I'm like, they got to go because, the economy is expensive. Yeah,
We're in this
energetically,
wilding
Lauren.
today.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Take,
Michelle, though, like like if you do get like unsubscribes in mass, that
yeah,
you might want to like think about what's going on with your newsletter. So it's like, uh,
yeah,
well, I guess when we say we're desensitized to unsubscribe, it's not necessarily saying we're not paying attention completely,
yes.
because you wake up one morning, you have 1,000, 3,000 people, and then all of a sudden it's down to 1,000. You might be like, well, what happened here?
Oh, shit.
Like you might want to investigate. Maybe it was something you put out, that you didn't
Yeah.
think was going to offend. Like that part, I would say, like, but ideally, like the random ones that I get on a daily basis, I'm still trying to figure out which. I thought I turned off all the notifications. I still can't. I can't find it. So if anybody, please shoot me a DM on Substack. But like, so I can just get rid of all the other ones, because it's like, oh, this is annoying. Why am I getting this email? But I'm like you. I believe I'd rather concentrate on the people who are on my list, who are participating, and just ensuring that they're getting value from it.
Uh,
Uh,
wonder.
I can jump in here for a second. Um,
Yes.
unless you wanted to share something, Michelle.
No, go. No, go. No, go for it.
Um, so I guess a couple of thoughts on what it's been like growing an email list. And I can say this as somebody who has significantly less than both Corey and Michelle, but I also started later, so I don't expect to have as many as they have. Um, growing an email list has been very eye-opening. And I'm the type of creator who is very like me versus me. So like, yeah, they have
Mm.
bigger lists than me, but I'm not intimidated by that. I'm not jealous of that. If anything, it just shows me like it's possible for me to have that. And that's cool. And I want them to keep growing. I don't want them to get stagnant, because that would maybe signal to me like, is there opportunity here? Is there a point where I'm going to max out? Is there a point where, the subscriber count doesn't matter anymore? I don't know. But I think like it's generally good. The energy around newsletters right now is like really, really good. And seeing them grow is like super awesome. It makes me feel like we're on the right path together, and like, we can support each other. And I think that's been one of the best things. And again, that's platform agnostic. I don't publish my newsletter here on Substack, but we still are thinking about the same things. How are we going to grow? How are we going to innovate? How are we going to make new formats? How can we write things and promote things that attract our ideal subscriber? And one of, again, going back to like the word of mouth, is like, how can I serve the people that are currently on my list? Not that I don't care about the unsubscribes. One, because I think the unsubscribes to tell you something. They tell you who is not for you, and they tell you um, what people love the most. I feel like the email newsletters that I get the most unsubscribes, and the most I've ever had at once is like six. Those are also the emails where I get the most responses and comments and shares, because for the people that it's really, really for, those people lock in. And for the people that it's not, those people are like, yeah, this isn't for me. And they know that. And I've talked about this on a Substack note that nobody saw, which is writing gut check articles, which I feel like I've been doing a lot more lately, just because I've been more emotionally raw and just vulnerable. But I feel like those gut check articles are ones that are not necessarily askew from what you would normally write, but they're probably more deeper and more personal than they are educational or value centric. Um, and that really give your audience an idea of who you are, not just and what you care about personally, and the ethos that you want to embody with your newsletter. And I think when it comes to growth, the last thing you wanna do is grow to a big subscriber count and have your subscriber feel like they don't really know where you stand on things that are very important to them and that are important to the industry or the topic that you're writing about. I think that's a big red flag. The last thing you want to do is grow to 10,000 followers and have no idea how you're going to monetize it, or you haven't started monetizing. That would send me into a grippy sock. Do not do that. Please think about monetization way earlier. I'm sorry. And I say this, I pay for Beehive. I pay for it. And
Mhm.
that money needs to be replaced. Like I need a return on that investment, truthfully speaking. And that's not a dirty word. That is the cost
Mhm.
of creativity. That is the cost of running a newsletter, paying for a subscription, in my opinion. Um, and I think that building community, not just with other writers, but building community with your audience is like super, super important. And that's the only growth lever that at the end of the day matters. Because if people don't resonate with what you're writing about, if people don't care, if people don't share, if people don't respond, one, you have no idea if you're doing a good job or not. And you kind of need to know if you're doing a good job considering the amount of hours that go into just writing a newsletter, let alone marketing a newsletter, let alone thinking about how to grow a newsletter, how to build infrastructure around a newsletter, a business around a newsletter. That just takes up so much time and energy. And for me, I would say it's been rewarding to see how deep I can go within myself, to provide my perspective, whether it's, educational. So from my experience as a creator and as a freelancer and as an entrepreneur, or as editorial. So my thoughts on what's new and what's next and creativity and entrepreneurship and storytelling. I think that is the greatest challenge of all. But I also am not immune to the fact where I'll have those days where it's like I put in all this work and I feel like it's growing really slowly. And for that reason, and they've both kind of like hinted at this, I'm interested to hear what they think. But data to me is very important. And that's something I'm also really grateful that started tracking as soon as I started writing a newsletter was like, what was the subscriber count for that month? What was the average open rate for that month? What was the average click-through rate? What was the average engagement rate when I was writing on Substack? Beehive doesn't have an engagement rate calculator, but whatever. Like, what are those things? Like, what worked well this month? What post performed the best this month? Why do I think that is? What post got shared the most? What was the feedback? Keeping a kind words folder. So when people would write me nice things, I would keep them. So on those days when I feel like, man, I'm bombing, post didn't perform that well, I can go back and look at that and be like, no, I need to sit the fuck down, actually. I need to chill out. Like I'm doing a good job. This is going well. This is one post that maybe performed slightly worse, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, you get to see, oh no, I got more responses this month. I got more total views because the subscriber count went up this month. The click-through rate was better. The response to ads was better this month. Maybe they didn't click on a lot, but the thing they clicked on most was a link to a podcast episode that I published ages ago. So it reinvigorated that podcast feed. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at success, and you have to define that for yourself very early because if you put it as one thing and you don't put in the systems to reach that measure of success, you're going to be really bummed out. But luckily for me, money was not my measure of success. My measure of success was how deeply we resonated, the retention of people that we had. So, how many subscribers we have that have been with us for 6 months or more, and how many times people share or respond, because those are the things that are just immeasurable and tell you how you're doing at the whole newsletter thing. So, in essence, yeah, it's a lot of work. Yes, it's humbling, but yes, it's also just like the most rewarding thing that's going to make you think deeper about yourself, about marketing, about writing, about copy, and about community. So 10 out of 10, no notes. Anyways, Corey, what about you?
How I feel about the building my list, it was
Yes.
it, I always ask myself, why did I do this to myself? Only because of the project that I'm doing with my newsletter is I realize it's like almost I'm basically creating. I always joke around, but when I say this, but I'm basically creating a whole new like media company, because
Mm.
of the ideas that I have and the type of content that I want to provide. And the idea was this being a trade newsletter and realizing how many aspects in this industry that it entails. It was like, well, and I think for me too, and I think there's something we haven't talked about, like building a list. Well, we briefly did, but um, I've started to utilize contributors to help with us bringing content, right? So like, we have the Feature Friday that's written by Adele, Walter Gaynor. He's doing the Hire Me section now. I got Rob working on the Ask the Expert section, and I realized bringing other people in who are and also offering them an opportunity. I think you mentioned like having advertising newsletter within your newsletter, offering them an opportunity to promote their newsletters and have people sign up on their websites, whatever it is, however their funnels work through the work that they do with me. But it's challenging, and I think for me to get to where I'm at, I went through several iterations because I really didn't understand what I wanted to do. I just knew Rob was on my case. It was like start a newsletter, and I was like, all right. There was a problem that was presented. I was like, I want to solve this problem for this person, and I was like, I'll just start a newsletter so we can publish our own stuff. And then as time went on, I started iterating. It was like, oh, and then I was also getting feedback. I'm like with you, Angela. Like I think we should really be doing data driven, making a lot of data driven decisions. And one of the tools that I don't utilize that I think in 2026 I plan on utilizing within the Substack platform is the surveys, so that I can
Mm.
actually get data directly from our audience, and hopefully shape their experience to make it a better experience for them. Not just polls. Substack actually has a survey option that you can do.
I know, but I'm saying
So
like polls are good too though.
yeah, yeah. So like utilizing more of those things to get engagement, but also just to improve the experience for our and get feedback from our audience. Because I do get feedback from people when I interact with them when they see me
Mm.
or at an event or something, but that's still not enough. It's maybe one or two people, maybe three people the most. And usually you're in the middle of something. So it's not like I'm sitting there writing down everything they're saying. It's just like, oh, this had impact on them. Right. So like that's not the best way to do it. So I want to try to get more into like, and I think this is also goes to what Michelle's saying, like by having your own system and having your own data and having your own, you can you can monetize the data that you collect off your list. There's companies that will pay for that. If that's the route you want to go. Um, a lot of these data companies, a lot of these companies that do all these reports and data, that's what they're doing. Honestly, they're taking that and they're taking all this data they collect from their list and from their audiences, and then they create an API and sell it for $10,000 every quarter. $5,000 every month, right? And it creates a whole
Was
new
that a
revenue
shot at
stream.
sound
So
profitable? Is that what that was?
Uh,
no, it wasn't. I'm not taking a shot, and it's not just. I'm not taking a shot at anybody. It's a lot of what these companies do. Like some of your favorite games that you play on your phone, that is their business model. The game is just the funnel into the data. So like, so we gotta, I mean, but that's an ethical, moral thing that if you decide integrity thing, if you decide that's what the route you want to go. But I definitely want to, because of the nature of what I'm trying to do in the industry. Um, there is going to be a component where we're using the data to put out reports and help people understand our community from a data point of view. Because I think the more we use data to make our arguments and show how much engagement, how much influence we have, that kind of will help level up, keep people honest when they come to us for sponsorships, when they come to you for advertising, to advertise on your newsletter and try to lowball you or take advantage of the fact that you may not realize the gold mine you're sitting on with this list that you're creating. So um, I think that's so for me though. The experience is it's been a humbling experience, and I'm glad I started it because I was refusing it. I was refusing it. I was refusing it, and I
why
did
were
it.
you
And now,
refusing it? What
so
was
for
what
me,
was it about list building that put you off?
so you know how you say you squirrel, right? For me, and
Yeah.
learning about my neurodivergence, it's like if I'm not passionate or if it's not something that's going to hold my focus, I'm not going to do it. And I think one of the biggest discussions Rob and I used to always have was, I don't know. One, I didn't know what to do, and there's a kind of a component with me where I need to at least have a basic understanding of how the process works for me to understand how to do it, and that's kind of where my ideas come from. Like, oh, that's how it works. Okay, now I can do this. I can do that. Right. But the other part was, unlike many of you, I don't consider myself a writer. So it's like
Mm.
I sit in front of my computer. Every day I'm trying to like. I know that in order to become a writer, you have to write, and I'll sit down and I'm just like, whatever I need to say, I could say in 2 lines on my threads. or whatever I need to say, I can say it in like a paragraph on my Facebook, and I not keep it moving because it's not that I get what need to get out, and I keep so. It was like, well, what do I want to talk about? What do I and it has to be something of passion for me. And at the time, I was just like, there's nothing that's a passion of mine that I really want to write about. And anything that I wanted to write about in regards to what I was building with the BPA, I could do in one newsletter post, and that was it. There's nothing going to come after that because I'm going to say everything I need to say in that one moment. So I think for me, the whole directness of who I am and I said what I said, and I said I don't need to go back and repeat it or harp on it, or it was like, okay, so this is going to be a very short-lived newsletter. It'll be like 3 posts, and that's it. After that, I don't know what else to do. So I had to for me, I had to figure out where's a gap that I could use the platform that I'm building to help serve and have more impact on what I'm trying to do for other people in this space, and that's where VPN came from. Black Podcasts came from. It was we don't have anything like this. People were telling me about their struggles of getting their content. Coach Tyler, Coach Tyler, you gonna see New York Corey next week too at Resonate,
Oh,
but
Wait, you're gonna be at Resonate,
but
Coach Todd?
I think yeah, I saw her name
uh-oh.
on the list. I saw her name on the
I
list
want to see a
for
picture.
our meetup. Um,
Okay.
but
Oh,
long story short, though, for me, it's like I was like, okay, this newsletter could serve a need because we don't have anything. And the biggest part was I got tired of hearing the complaints behind the scenes of like I try to get it published over here. They keep telling me it's not in alignment, and I'm the type of person we're not gonna keep complaining. We're just gonna do. So where it comes from. So I think for me, building my own personal list is going to be the challenge because now it's like,
but
okay,
to
you
me,
got to
like,
do this, but
okay,
you got to figure it out for yourself.
here's the thing though. There's this we're in a multimedia world, and most of these platforms allow us to do things in multimedia. So like when I imagine your like personal newsletter, I imagine you sharing, like I imagine you occasionally shooting a video and like unboxing a vinyl and like walking back. Maybe no, listen, like for me it would be interesting, like you going back and all those records I see behind you, and you're like, I'm gonna set a mood. This is the record for today's newsletter. This is the energy, and this is the topic I'm gonna talk about. Like, why does it have to be written? I guess is what I'm like. This is the
Well,
point. Like, why does a newsletter again to me is a branded communication? How you communicate in 2026 is up to you when they provide you audio, video, text. Like you could do all kinds of things. Why does it have to be
because
written like that?
this is not what I wanted to do. I didn't want y'all to know who I was when I started this. I wanted a spokesperson. I was trying to
Oh,
find a face. I don't want to like
but
for me to
but I
sit here
mean
and turn on the
in the
that's
future
just
for
not
the
who I am. That's not who I
uh
am. Like if you want me
yeah.
like if I go and buy a vinyl, I am not thinking about turning on my camera. I'm not thinking about recording or audio. I'm thinking about opening that vinyl, putting it on my record player, and listening to why I got the vinyl in the first place. So for me, it's very, as my therapist like to say, it's very black or white. There's no like it's like
Yeah.
I do the things that I want to do. And I don't think about like all these different things. Like sometimes I kick myself in the rear end after leaving a conference. Like you could have should have been making content while you were here, but I'm so
Oh, yeah.
engaged in what I'm there for because if you're technically I don't even want to be there because I'm not a big fan of being there. So it's like I'm here for one purpose and one purpose only, and this is what I want to when I want. Yeah, I want to be in the shadows, but I do try to stop myself and remember, but it's also part of my neurodivergence is the dopamine fix of like, here I am, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not thinking about everything else around me. So that's the struggle, and that's part of the reason why I was like obstinate. Like, and it took me a while to recognize why I was being obstinate, because deep down inside, I was just be like, oh, I gotta make content, and it's like, I don't want to do this because I'm not thinking about it. So
Mhm.
I think part of when we talk about building a list, because sometimes somebody might be hearing it, might be feeling the same way. There is a
Yeah.
benefit to it, and it took me a while to recognize the benefit of it. But you just got to find a lane that works for you, right? And there is a level of comfortability that had to come from this. Uh, from my neurodivergence. I got diagnosed last year with to being on the spectrum as well as possible ADHD. So I got a double whammy, but um, which I'm working on. But it was like for me, the experience was It was always like I gotta do this. And
Yeah.
even sometimes with the stuff that I'm doing, it's like that's one reason I was like contributors that this will help me
Mhm.
offload some of that pressure that I was feeling and utilizing. And the goal of my platform was to platform Black voices. So I was like, it just made sense for me to reach out to people, say, hey, would you want to? I see you doing this over here. I think it would be a great fit over here with what I'm doing with my newsletter, and you could reach my
Mhm.
audience, and we could figure out the exchange or whatever we need to figure out behind the scenes. But it was like, and I think that added more value to the yeah, some people would say double shot of uniqueness, all right. But that added to the value of what we were doing. And it also allowed me to think about what I was doing more creatively in regards to coming up with different ideas of content versus me trying to just focus on getting something out every week.
Mm.
So
But actually, I have a question. Do you guys use an editorial calendar, even if it's a loose one? I personally do,
what
and
is
it
that?
makes, oh my
A
God.
calendar?
So I I have not even like an editorial focus. And so it helps me because I'm like Corey, sometimes, like I said, I'll squirrel and I have a lot of different things that I'm doing. So what I do is I'll have like a content focus or push. I try to batch a lot of work so that when I don't want to be creative, I don't have to be. So that's been really helpful having like there's a really, really good long conversation that Angela and I recorded a couple weeks ago. It's literally a 2-hour conversation. I will edit it the way that I need to edit it for my show. And then that's 2 episodes I don't have to do. When I interview guests. I actually will have like guests for the newsletter. I will typically record two totally different pieces of content with them so that I have more in the bank. Same amount, like in an hour to hour, 15 minutes, we get it all done. And then that way it helps them. Like I can share them in more than one way, but it also helps me because then I can go to the ice castles and hang out. You know what I mean? Like I have other, like I don't always want to be in creation mode. So, I think that's important to kind of think about. It's like, what are your systems?
I do always want to be in creation mode, and that is not always how life works. But the editorial calendar does help. I don't necessarily like I've tried to do series, and that's something I'm gonna talk about in like one of my urine articles is like I have not done well with ending a series. Like I'll get it started, but then I won't finish it. And that's been a
Oh,
huge problem for me this year. So that's like a whole other conversation. But generally speaking, having an editorial calendar has been like helpful. I'm pretty sure I'm planned out through January. So like
mm.
we're pretty solid. But if I miss one, don't say anything because I know, trust me, I know that I missed. but, but yes,
Um,
editorial
I
calendar
kind
is
of
life.
I want to start wrapping the conversation up. Um, I do want to talk briefly about. I feel like this could be a whole different live though. How does it feel for you to monetize your newsletter? Like,
Oh, that's a different
what's
conversation. That's a different conversation, friend.
okay? So that's why I was saying that could be like a whole different.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be, by the way? We'll talk
Yeah, I
about
think
that
we
another
should talk
day.
about that and then
Yeah,
producing content at events. Those are two I want to add. And if y'all have topics for us, please let us know. We want to, I'm going to write this down actually, but we want to know what you guys want to hear from us. The
yeah.
point of the calendar is to ignore it. Girl, how are you living like this?
Girl,
I mean that's my life, Lauren.
Lauren,
That's my life. Thank
Lauren.
God for
I don't know how I
Okay,
feel.
notifications.
y'all. I cannot. I cannot. No, can't
I
relate.
love my calendar. I have a digital and a actual like physical
I don't
planner
know how y'all live
calendar. I
like
love
that.
both. I
How do y'all
love
live like that?
it. I
Y'all have
love
not seen my
it.
Notion, and it shows when y'all say stuff like this because my Notion is
Oh,
crazy.
I love it. I think that's kind of. I feel like humans who are watching us, people, what do you have any final questions for us or thoughts or like have we at least encouraged you to keep going if you've been building out a list and maybe you're feeling like it's not going the way that you would like? Um
Oh, Coach Ty, I like you. I like you a lot. Oh,
so let us know before we sign off. because we're curious, we're nosy. So we hope that this has encouraged you. If you haven't started, we hope that it's encouraged you to do that, or at least it makes sense why we're saying what we're saying. Lauren runs ads for subs.
Okay. Ads to your own stuff or ads to other brands and products? Say more about planning for money up front, Angela. Money like
What do you
money
mean?
for my newsletter? Or can you say more, Shamika?
I think she means more like the monetization, like you said earlier about like you should be planning. You should start planning for your monetization
Oh,
early.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. I can answer that if that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, when I first started on Substack, I bought into the like leverage this to get paid subscribers. And I did get some paid subscribers. But then earlier this year, I had a crash out newsletter where I was like, I'm quitting my paid subscriptions because this is not what works for me as a creator. Like, that's just not how I want to make money. Um, Also, around that time, I saw just how quickly that my newsletter was growing. And I say quickly, quickly for me. Um, and maybe even more than what I had expected at that point. So, I was like, okay, like this is growing kind of fast. I do kind of need to get serious about like how this is going to grow because like when I moved to Beehive, now I'm paying per subscriber. So once you reach a new tier of subscribers, you pay more money. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna be paying more money, I need to be making more money. Hello. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was like, paid subscriber isn't it because of the expectations that come with a paywall and paywalled content. And I really just wanted education to be free. So I was like, okay, how do I want to make money? Sponsorships feels good to me. I like sponsorships. Creating my own course felt good. I came up with the idea around March or April, just released Community OS at the end of last month. So please check that out. So owned products, sponsorships. I think going forward, events feels good and ads within my newsletter through Beehive's ad network. Those things feel great to me. Those things are things that I want. Um, and those are what feel right to me. Now, there are people who get to 10,000 and they say, okay, I got to 10,000. Now I just want to do ads. And then they wonder why they're struggling because ads, they didn't figure out sooner that ads are just not enough of a base of monetization to sustain a newsletter. And so that's why I say the earlier you can start to think about monetization, the better, because the best validation for any product or offer or service is to ask people to pay for it. If people are not willing to pay for it, then it might not be as valuable as you think, or it might take longer for you to warm up that list and get them through the sales cycle to pay for whatever it is. So again, for people who are offering services through their newsletter, either whether that's done with you or done for you, those are going to be higher cost items. Those are going to have longer sales cycles. You're going to have to put in more time. You don't want to start when you're already too big to now require money. So that's what I meant about planning for money up front.
I think
I think it's
so. I
so
think
weird.
I want to take what
Go ahead.
Rob Dunn said a long time ago on our Facebook group. And I always remember this because I think part of it
You're cutting
sometimes
out,
is just
Corey.
I don't. I
That's
don't know what's
you.
going on, but
He's fine.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. My
Uh,
bad.
uh, I'm getting shots for no reason, but
Shut, 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 shut.
no, but I just want to say briefly, like to expound on what you're saying too. Is I remember Rob Dunwood a long time ago. We had a talk, a live in our Facebook group, and he mentioned that one of the mistakes he noticed people were making is they wait till like they're like, people always ask, at what point do I monetize? What's the number where I start to monetize? And when he said this, I kind of adopted it. It was like he was like, a mistake you make is you set an expectation for free, and then now you want people to pay, and it's like they're not going to pay you because you set the expectation already for what it's worth. And he was like, you need to be monetizing from the beginning. So like, I always think about like how so monetization is always when I come up with ideas. Do I want to monetize this, and two, how do I plan on monetizing it? And I remember telling you, Angela, a couple weeks ago, I had a talk with Mars from God, no, some brain fart on the
Certified
cover. What's
Crucial.
the certified crucial? I always think crucial conflict, the rap group. I don't know why, but certified crucial. And in our conversation, I realized, and I think I'm gonna work on this philosophy and think about it more, and I'm gonna get my own data. But I started switching it instead of I'm thinking about the merchandising on the monetization around the idea versus how does the idea fit the merchandising, monetization model, if that makes sense. So like if I want to sell a t-shirt, how do I make the content fit around the sale of that t-shirt versus me trying to make content and then say, hey, by the way, buy my t-shirt. But like Hasbro did when I was a kid with G.I. Joe and
Oh,
Transformers.
G.I.
They
Joe.
wanted to sell,
Yes.
they wanted to sell the figures. So they decided,
Yep.
how do we build an ecosystem around selling this thing? And they created one of the
The
greatest cartoons ever.
cartoon.
One of the greatest
Yes.
cartoons
Every
ever that drove
afternoon.
my mother
Yeah.
insane every Christmas for her and my birthday. But to this day, to this 40 years later, I'm still like, I still watch it. I'm still traumatized by certain things that happened. But that was Hasbro's model was we want to sell these
Yeah.
products. We need to build something to entice people to purchase it. And they created content. So it was like, you got to. I think sometimes, when you're thinking about the monetization of your like how do I build if I want to make money doing X, Y, and Z? If I want subscriptions, how do I build a product that's going to make people want to subscribe to it? And
By the
I
way,
think
I'm going to be, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm done. I'm done. That was the point I wanted to make.
You mentioned the subscription. That's why I got excited and spoke up. I am convinced that subscriptions, quite frankly, are the hardest way to make money. And I think it's a hell of a lot easier to make money with products versus this like ephemeral. I just feel like paywalls are hard. And I say this having had a closed paywall. I've opened up my paywall for a reason. I'm just like, this is going to be energetically easier on me. And I I opened it up about a week ago and I got a founding member subscription like within a week of doing that. So I feel like, we talk about paywalls and things like that. They're really hard to do. And that's all I'm going to say. I feel like that's almost a whole different conversation. But if you have a product, a digital product, a service, an event, I think it's going to be 10 times easier and we'll say quote unquote easier than doing the paywall. I'm not saying don't, I think it's important to learn how to monetize paywalls and understand what people would want behind the paywall. I think that's a really, really good skill. And I think it's a good skill to try to do on Substack because I think it's hard to do on Substack, personally speaking, or any platform like that. And once you understand how to deliver those types of products or experiences behind the paywall, that opens up additional like opportunities for you as a creator who's looking to optimize their platform and get paid. But quite frankly, I think it's really hard to do, and I think that what's interesting. I saw a very very huge writer is moving to what is that platform?
Ghost.
Um, no. It's I'll find it. That's gonna
Kit.
bug me. No, it's
Kajabi.
the no.
Let's go
It's
down
the
the
Remix.
what?
list.
No,
School.
Ah,
Patreon.
yes.
So Anna Helen Peterson, who has a massive Substack currently, a massive project on the platform. She is now moving to Substack. Now, the reason, I'm sure there are multiple reasons, but a big part of it, she runs a project called Culture Study, which actually I am subscribed to. And I think her audience was like, hey, we want you to be somewhere else. So one thing I
Mm.
would say is as as you build out your projects, your newsletter, what have you, they have a life of their own. They have an energy. Your audience may require different things of you or request different things of you. Oh, not that again.
Sorry. I had to call it out.
uh, we, it's a joke. It's a joke. We actually Corey kind of touched on this. Like as you work on your list, especially if initially it's branded as a newsletter. It has a life of its own and it evolves. So like my Creators Getting Paid newsletter, I thought it was going to be a community. Like that wasn't the intention, which was why I had it paywalled in the way that I did. But as time went on, I was like, I'm fine with a paywall, but let me test it out. That's what I did this year. I was testing things out and realized the community component has to be off the website, off of the platform. And so that's why I have a community, the Creator Income Collective. I've soft launched that on on Circle because I felt like that would be a better place for that. So pay attention to your list, pay attention to the intention around it, pay attention to how it does or doesn't change. But I would say anything that's online, that's positioned online, will likely evolve in ways that may surprise you. Don't fight the change. You know? Are we
We gonna
gonna
go
leave
for
once
an
it hits
hour and a half?
69?
No. You know what's funny than 69? 70. Guys, this week can happen. Please share this live stream with folks who
God dang
are
it.
on Substack Notes, all two of them that would want to come and join us.
Oh
We
Lord.
really appreciate you guys hanging out with us for an hour and a half on a Tuesday evening. Is it just me or did fall come in like really fast? I feel like now like we had this like cozy Tuesday evening thing where people can snuggle up, in their
Came in
warm
like a
homes.
wrecking ball.
It was so fast. It was so fast. Like at 6 o'clock, it's like sunset. Last week it was like 80. Now it's like 50s. And I'm like, how did we get here? How?
It snowed so much in the mountains that they had to shut down the highway up there. And I got rained on for half an hour yesterday. It was great. It was great. We didn't know it was going to rain, by the way. It was very confusing. Torrential
Fun
rain out
time.
of nowhere.
Fun times. Well, you know what? Thank you guys for hanging with us. I think we're gonna. Ooh, it was an hour plus, but good. We know, friend. We know. So
Cheryl.
thank you.
Uh,
Oh man. I guess since
at
I'm
least you
talking, I'm
hung
gonna go
out
ahead
with
and
us.
introduce myself, and we're gonna end this thing. I'm Angela. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We didn't get to 69 tonight, but you know what? We tried really hard, and that's what's important. So, thank you guys for hanging out with us. All right, please hustle responsibly and Melanin MVP, two publications that you can find here on this incredible platform. And I'm saying that for the algorithm so they don't ban me. Michelle,
Uh,
what's
Hey, everybody. So, hi, my name is Michelle Jackson. I run Creators Getting Paid. I like to interview people and share how they get paid, as well as share my trials and tribulations as a content creator and how I get paid. For the next 4 weeks, it's been four already. Oh my God. I am doing a holiday sales sprint within Creators Getting Paid to help people prepare for the holiday sales cycle. Uh, Keep an eye out for that. That's every Sunday. The times do change because sometimes I'm busy on Sunday, but it happens every Sunday. And then I share the replay with my list. Corey.
My name is Corey Gums. I am the founder of the Black Podcast Association, and I started Black Pod News, blkpodnews.com, right here on Substack. It's a newsletter dedicated to the Black creative space and podcasting. It's a trade newsletter, and I just want to promote real quick. Check out our Hire Me section. There's a lot of great freelancers on there. That if you're looking for somebody to work with, check out that. We got some really good talent. And check out the Featured Friday where you can learn more about the person behind the podcast, not just their podcast. Those are like
Mm.
two of our real popular segments right now. We got some more stuff coming in 2026, but that's where we're at. And make sure you check us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on Substack. And there we go, right when we're closing
Felton.
this down. Shout out to Felton. Thank you, Felton.
Yes, Melton. You're gonna have to watch the replay, sir. We're happy to see you. Oh Lord. I'm gonna lay down now.
All right.
All
See
right,
you guys
everybody,
next week.
man. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. All right. See y'all.